Hey, everybody, and welcome to the State of Secret Sprawl 2025 Expert Panel Webinar from GitGuardian. We're glad you could join us today, and we're excited to be here. I'm Dwayne McDaniel. I'll be your host today. I am the developer advocate here at GitGuardian, helping people figure stuff out. So very happy to help you figure stuff out. And we want to make this interactive today, so please engage with us in the chat and the questions. We're happy to answer your questions as we go. We have some time reserved at the end of today's hour, the last 10 minutes or so, to actually dig into those questions a little deeper, but please feel free to use them. We also are gonna make this interactive, have some polls and whatnot, but we actually wanna start this out by being interactive by having you test out the chat. So we would love to hear from you. Where are you out in the world? Like, for instance, I am located in Chicago, Illinois, and that's a pretty good time to actually introduce the rest of our panel and get them speaking. So Gaetan, where are you at in the world?
Hey, so I'm Gaetan Ferry, and I'm a security researcher here at GitGuardian, and I'm based in France.
Excellent. Alexei.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Alexei, lead data at GitGuardian, and I'm currently in Paris.
Excellent. And we will have Chris Smith, the director of product marketing over at Cyberark, join us here in a second. He's having a little bit of connection problems at the moment, but we're working all that out in the background. Guillaume, why don't you go next?
Yeah, Guillaume, French security researchers, Gaetan, and today I'm in lovely and sunny Paris.
Excellent. And Carol?
Yeah, same here. Paris-based CMO at GitGuardian.
That makes sense because we are a company based in Paris. So we are here to talk about the State of Secret Sprawl Report 2025. So maybe it would help to set some ground rules on that. And what are we saying is a secret? The way we define secret here at GitGuardian is anything that grants access or allows authentication between systems. So API keys, database password pairs, certs, anything that grants that level of access. It can come in a lot of different forms and a lot of flavors, but secret's the all-encompassing larger term. But this is what it looks like when you do this in production, when you plain text hard code a secret out there. And before we get to the actual numbers, we would love to hear from you. So I'm going to launch a poll here. If you go into the Livestorm app, you should see, make this live, publish poll. Have you ever leaked a secret? And please be honest with us. This is anonymous. We don't know who's clicking what with these polls, but we'd love to get your input as we're going here and see a quick results. Yes, and no. So there's at least one perfect person who's on the call today. But let's just roll forward for sake of time. We have a lot to talk about. We know that secret leaks is a real problem because, well, we see a lot of them out there. And before we get to the numbers and the big reveal there, I do want to talk a bit about how we're doing this and where this report comes from. So every time a new commit gets pushed out to GitHub in public, GitGuardian, our public monitoring platform, scans all of those commits. This also happens when a commit is made public for the first time. It's a public event. Well, we can scan these and immediately email the author and went too far. Email the author of that commit and say, hey, you've done this. That's our Good Samaritan program. We're very happy to do that. But there's also this data we're collecting, and unfortunately, I just already shared it, Carol. I've already spoiled the surprise, but how leaky was 2024?
Well, this year, again, the number went up quite a bit, and we will explain also why we saw such a rise in number. But yeah, we're a bit below 24 million, which makes it plus 25% compared to last year. So another year for secret to sprawl more.
So I'm curious, Gaetan, you're a security researcher. How is this happening? How are we exposing this many secrets?
Yeah, there are so many ways to leak a secret, and I think that the main problem is leaking a secret is far simpler than managing a secret correctly, which is probably part of the problem. I personally find this number huge, and I've been a red teamer in my previous life, and so I knew for for a fact that leaked secrets were a problem, and I actually used secrets to compromise and breach companies in the past. But it's not before I joined GitGuardian that I really understood the magnitude of this problem, and I've been surprised by the number of companies who leaked, the profile of those companies. It's just like leaking everywhere, even from major tech companies, and yeah, basically everyone is leaking. That's pretty impressive.
So this is quite a giant jump, and this is even more so than the growth of GitHub itself. We saw GitHub announce their numbers, like 1.4 billion new public commits. That's our research backed that up as well, Lexi, I believe. So that's a 20% increase year over year for them, but we're seeing 25% surge year over year. So Lexi, you actually put together the numbers here on the back end for us. You're one of our researchers that put this together. Maybe you could talk a little bit about our methodology and what's changed and how we're detecting things.
Yes, thanks. So indeed, our secrets detection technology has achieved a significant milestone last year because we have put in production cutting-edge machine learning models. And thanks to them, GitGuardian is now able to confidently identify a lot more generic secrets, which could be usernames, password, or more generally like unstructured credentials. And this dramatically expands the scope of the report. So like previously, our level of confidence regarding these generic secrets was quite low over the past years. But the introduction of these ML-powered models has changed our approach, allowing us to filter out false positives with a great accuracy and categorize these generic secrets in the same time. So, like, thanks to this new technology that has been powered by our company, we have understood that generic secrets represent a far more extensive threat compared to what we previously thought. And like, while specific secrets have been the focus of the past reports, we can now say that generic secrets appear to be the tip. The specific secrets appear to be the tip of the iceberg. Sorry.
It's good to bring up generic secrets here because, well, that was actually our next point that we wanted to talk about, and that was one of the really shocking findings for a lot of us around here, that we saw a 58% jump in generic credentials detected. And this is the first time we've seen this, where it overtakes the specific detectors. Maybe you could just give a quick high level, Alexi, on like, what is the difference between a specific detector and a generic detector, and why machine learning is so important in this?
Yes, thanks. So this is a great question. So there are two types of detectors. Basically, we have specific detectors that identify secrets that are tied to known platforms or services, such as API keys or auth tokens. And these can be identified using pattern matching, so quite easy to identify. But we also have like these generic detectors that are all the rest. So as I said before, usernames, passwords, etc. And this requires a deeper contextual understanding of how they are leaked and what is the context around to understand to identify them as secrets. So as you say, this is the fastest growing category of exposed credentials, and like unlike specific secrets, which may be quickly identified and remediated, these generic secrets can remain below the radar for a long period of time. And this allows some lateral movement across organizations. So, of course, this is one of our next points, but GitHub push protection has been effective in reducing the number of certain specific secrets, but it does not address the growing issue of generic secrets. And this is concerning.
Well, so let's go on to that next point. That's one of the reasons we believe that we are seeing not a leveling off, it's definitely still increasing. The number of specific secrets being overtaken by generic with such a large margin this year is, well, GitHub's made some changes. They've been working on this problem as well. And they've introduced GitHub's push protection, which for certain types of secrets, it seems to be helping, but for others, it's not. So, Gautam, maybe you can take it from here and explain what we're looking at here. What is the push protection doing?
Yep. So here we have two examples of two different specific secrets. So on one side, the OpenAI secrets, so basically the secrets you can use to join the OpenAI API, and on the right, the Google API keys that are used to interact with Google APIs. So they are basically the same kind of secrets, generally speaking, and we observed that past GitHub release of the push protection feature, the number of OpenAI secrets we observe on like being publicly leaked dramatically dropped, which is definitely a good thing. But on the other end, the Google API keys stayed on the same basis of number of leaks, which illustrates how the push protection is definitely helping. You can see the OpenAI secrets are less leaked, but not on all kind of secrets. So as you said, Dwayne, this is going in the right direction. So helping tackle this secret sprawl problem, but I really believe there's still a lot to be done to completely tackle the leaks. And
Absolutely.
we definitely need more than just the push protection, if not for generic secrets.
And I'm glad you brought up generic secrets there at the end, because that seems to be the great gap. From my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody, but it's very pattern based. So if you look through the documentation for GitHub secrets detection, it's very much pattern based. There's very specific patterns they're good at, like OpenAI secrets, which I'll start with SK dash or GitHub OAuth tokens, which are GHU underscore. But that entire other bucket, and that's what Lexi was talking about earlier, the contextual understanding that machine learning provides. We can look and say, hey, is this a key that's being used somewhere? But it looks like it's not just generic. It's also other specific kinds that for some reason or another, and that we don't dwell on everything that GitHub's getting wrong here, because again, we think it's a step in the right direction, but clearly it's not going to solve this for us, especially when it comes to generic secrets. And that leads us to our next big point. This is the first year that we were able to include some metrics from observations we made for internal monitoring, looking across what we can see out in the world. And we came to this very interesting data point. So, you haven't spoken much in this webinar. So I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Why on earth are we seeing private repositories 8 times more likely to contain a secret?
Yeah, really good question. So we think that people behave quite differently where they feel safe. And so when they feel like they're pushing their code in private repositories. So we really believe that will explain why we can see more secrets in private repositories than in public ones. And for what we do in detection and from also, let's say, an attacker standpoint, it's quite interesting because it means that an attacker that will get access to these repositories with secrets can kind of extend what they do and perform some lateral movements. So it's really interesting to see two different behaviors when you push publicly and when you push privately. And indeed, in private repositories, we see more secrets. It's a bit like if you feel safe when you're at home and you keep your key cards in the car, which is not really a good thing for if you want to prevent thieves to steal your car. So
that's a good point. That is a good point. And it's not on this slide, and I don't believe we put it on the next one, but there's a disturbing trend that it's a lot more secrets. And you could go refer to the report. Obviously, we'll jump that into chat where you can download this for free. But we see a lot more generic secrets in these private repos. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's indeed what we observe in the report. More generics. I think there is the ratio is 75% of generic secrets in private repo against close to 16 in public ones. Again, different trends than before.
I think it's those homegrown systems, those microservices people are setting up. Just going to be a lot more things that don't follow patterns or map to well-known systems. So I want to talk beyond just Git. So we've been talking about GitHub, but we've been talking about Git repos. We've been talking about developer flows up to now, but we also scan other sources. And we think this is a really important piece to bring up because it's not just your developers doing this. It's not just your version control systems that are getting covered or that are getting attacked. Attackers don't really care where they're finding secrets. They're just finding them. So Carol, maybe we haven't heard from you in a minute. Maybe you can talk a little bit about what's going on here.
Well, what's going on is basically developers are not just coding the whole day. They are also chatting using systems like Jira or Confluence to exchange with their peers. And as Guillaume was saying, they feel safe because they are in their environment, private environment, and they probably don't see why they couldn't copy paste, a secret on a ticket or on a Slack channel to basically unblock a colleague or ask for a question. And unfortunately, attackers know that, and when they enter an organization, they could enter through different ways, but they know where they can find secrets and these places. And Jira is, I think, the most one where there are most leaks, because obviously when you're doing tickets and doing development and doing different activities, it's easy to think, okay, I store it here. And therefore we see a lot of them. What's interesting to see is that the secrets that we find in these environments are usually more critical than the one that we find in the VCS for some reasons. And also the overlap between what we find in the coding systems such as GitHub or GitLab and what we find in these environments are only overlapping 7%. So it means that not only are they a place where secrets leak, but more critical secrets and new secrets, not the one that are leaking through, that could be caught, for example, by our pre-push hook or another hook on the developer, platform. They are hard-coded someplace where you don't have these functions of hooks, and therefore they are leaking also, and they are a major problem. We have recent examples. I think two breach this year or last year were involved leaks in Slack. One was I think Mercedes, and the other one was Disney. They had some leakage in these environments that allowed people to do lateral movement. So important to look, beyond code. Secret leakage is not only a code problem.
Absolutely.
I think that's a very, very good point to point at those public breaches. Because we were talking about this bias toward thinking that internal resources, whether Jira, Slack, or the private repositories, are by nature safer. And I think there is a hard believing in that. But unfortunately, there are risks even for those systems. And of course, there's this internal threat risk where someone inside the company could use the secrets in those systems to breach inside the same company. So that exists, but it's often it's disregarded as unrealistic or low prioritized. It's not really seen as an issue. But what people tend to overlook is that attackers are targeting those same systems. And you are perfectly right, Carol, that we have observed this year a number of breaches that involved Slack, Jira, and in all cases, we can find a lot of secrets inside the breaches, the breach data that is publicly leaked, which has a number of consequences. The more secrets are leaked that way, and the harder the remediation. And like it's completely sure that remediating a breach that involves, I don't know, 1,000 secrets is going to be a big deal. And there's this second risk that because secrets are leaked into the breach data, another breach can happen. And that's really critical. And that's really something people need to understand. The data that is private can be made public with or without you willing to make it public. But in that case, secrets are a big deal.
That's a really good segue, actually. You don't intend it to be public, but it becomes public, because sometimes we do produce things that are actually intended to be public that we dangerously put our secrets into and shove them out into the world. So, Guillaume, I know you did some research on this, but we were looking. So far we've talked about the version control system itself. We've talked about the conversation around that code, the Jira, Confluent, Slack. But what about the artifact, the thing that actually gets produced and shoved out into the world?
Yeah. So let's talk about Docker images and Docker Hub. So it started with some kind of discussion with people in the company in Gaetan. What if we look for secrets really close to production? Because our understanding of Docker images, that's could be a location where people will mix code and secrets because they must be used together at some point. And we kind of decided to go for that and have a look at how we can scan Docker Hub, a bit like we did in the past with GitHub. So we managed to gather information about 15 million images, and then we started the scan. It took like 2 weeks to be completed. And the results are a bit like the one from the private repositories. We see much more valid secrets in Docker Hub compared to what we are seeing in public GitHub, which likely show several interesting things. First, it's really likely that developers and users of Docker images, they are not aware that they can leak secrets in images, and they believe that it's safe to put them in Docker images to use them for production. And then that's they are not really helped by the Docker ecosystem. No one is really scanning for secrets into Docker images, so you can find tools to look for vulnerabilities, but not for secrets. So that might explain why we see much more valid secrets. And because these secrets are really linked to production, we can see that we find really impactful secrets. We found things related to Factory, so other kind of registries, AWS, we found MongoDB, and many more. And again, for attackers, that's a gold mine, because it means that they can go and look at Docker images, find valid secrets, and go deeper and deeper into companies. And to prevent that, what we started at GitGuardian is to start some responsible disclosures that extend on what we do usually with Good Samaritan. Good Samaritan, if you don't know, it's just sending emails when we see leaks in public GitHub. So we are doing the same for Docker Hub, and trying to reach out to companies to warn them about the fact that they leak potentially high impact secrets.
I don't think I don't want the world to think that we're picking just on Docker here. We're really talking about the whole world of artifacts. But
Yeah,
Docker is just the largest platform out there where people are pushing their images. But Gaetan, I think you did a deep dive on this and took a closer look at Artifactory.
Yes, indeed. So this year, we observed quite a few Artifactory token leaks, and what we found from a small sample was that those tokens seemed always critical. So we decided to do a deep dive into this and studied Artifactory tokens in general. One thing that's interesting with Artifactory tokens and Artifactory in general is that, similarly to GitHub, they tend to be very close to production. Like Artifactory stores artifacts that go to production, and Artifactory tokens are used in CI/CD to push artifacts to the repositories. So some way or another, Artifactory tokens production environment is a CI/CD, so it's closer to code. Most of the tokens we found were tied to corporate environment, and that's one very important point, I think. Such software is mainly used by companies and enterprises, corporate environments, and are very close to production, which push toward this. Everything is critical when dealing with Artifactory. One very concerning thing that we found is that Artifactory tokens, when studied with an eye toward corporate environments, are pretty frequent and most often highly critical. And we found tokens for companies in various sectors, including critical one, defense company, energy company, even big tech from like Fortune 500 companies. So it's like such a software like Artifactory is widely adopted in big companies. And so the leaks we found were always very critical. I really repeat myself here, but this is a big thing. And in general, they are critical because the privileges that are set on those tokens are very high, which is another problem that we'll discuss later on. But Artifactory tokens with high privileges have supply chain types of consequences. So basically, an attacker can compromise a lot of systems, sometimes a lot of companies with a single compromise. So in that case, with a single Artifactory token, you can push malicious packages that will be run on a variety of environments, which is, of course, very dangerous. And we see a lot of examples these days of supply chain attacks being fairly critical. But even in the cases where the tokens had only low privileges, let's say read privileges on a repository, what we observed is among the things we were able to read, we found more secrets, which is somehow linked to what we found on Docker. Like if you can read a Docker instance, you can find secrets. If you can read an Artifactory, you can find more secrets and move laterally.
Well, thank you very much for that. We dropped the link to your blog post that goes into much more detail on this out there in the chat. So feel free to read that as well. Moving on, it is 2025, so AI is going to come up at some point, and specifically Copilot. So one of our great hopes with any AI assisting tool is that it will help make us better coders. And by better, we hope that means safer. But unfortunately, the numbers don't support that. This is what we found when we looked through all the repos out there. We sampled over 20,000 such repositories, and wow, over 1,200 of them leaked at least one secret. That's 6.4% of all. So what's going on here? Maybe Carol, Tom?
Yeah, I can comment a little bit on this. I think there are different reasons. One of them is when you get assisted, you pay less attention. So that's the first thing I think that may happen and therefore, if the Copilot is trained on code that is leaking secret, it's going to leak secret. I just read an article today from quite a deep research, and the guy was testing Claude, I think, and basically Claude hard-coded the secret, even if it was saying it should not, which is a bit, contradicting, but it's a machine, right? So they can contradict themselves one sentence after another. So the problem is the code they're trained on is full of flaws, and secrets is one of them. I'm sure they are introducing a lot more vulnerabilities than just secrets. As we are expert in secrets, we know that they do. And so because the training material is flawed, then the results is flawed. So what it means is that if you are implementing Copilot or another tool in your company to basically assist your developers, and we know a lot of companies are doing so, and a lot of developers are willing to leverage these tools, you need to also implement barriers and system to basically correct what the code is produced, and you need to basically have secret detection in place to basically control what the Copilot is doing. So that's our recommendation. Yes, use it, but have some control in place to make sure that what the code is produced is clean and good to go.
So, interesting stat related to that. We think maybe you can speak to how people are using this a little bit more. But it's not just coders. We're seeing a rise of, well, partly agentic AI, people building more and more LLM related things. We think that's part of the rise of Neo4j, but it's also a lot of other low code, no code platforms that we're starting to see the NHI secrets leak out there.
You're right, Dwayne. Yeah, you're right. And I see that in my own team, right? I'm a CMO, so I have engineers in my team. We call them growth engineers, and they're manipulating a lot of tools to basically automate systems or deploy AI agents. And for this, they're using, Zapier and N8N and all these tools that are easy to interact with to manipulate API keys. But they're not developers. They're low coders or no coders, and even developers make the mistake, even senior developer. But imagine people who are even less trained on what a secret is and what it gives access to and how dangerous it can be. Then you have really the sprawl accelerating. And one image I like to use for AI agents is when you develop an agent, an agent is serving multiple sub-services or is connecting to multiple systems, and with one agent you could leverage multiple secrets. So I'm really pretty sure, and we can make a bet here, but that next year we'll see an explosion of the keys leveraged by all these new agents that are deployed by companies or different services that they develop, basically.
Yeah, Carol, I think that's Chris here. I think that's a really good point. I mean, again, we're seeing a lot of interest in agentic AI and AI, but those tools, I mean, they're not great necessarily at securing secrets. So it is a real problem. And you're right, it's going to get worse. And hopefully we'll have some solutions that'll make it better, but they're not there yet, sadly.
Well, Chris, good to see you. Glad we got our technical difficulties worked out and you're able to join us. Because actually, I think it's a good segue that you joined just now because, well, before we get to that, we want to actually ask out there in the audience, have you actually deployed AI coding assistants across your organization? I am going to go into the polls right now and let's see. Organization adopt the published poll. It should be published just now, so you should be able to see that one. And it looks like about half the people on this call think that they have never leaked a secret, which I hope that's true. But for the 9, so that would be 60, 57, I can't do math, 57%, yes, is leaked internally or publicly from that earlier poll. But back to it, again, for sake of time, because we can still much more to cover. But Chris, you work for Cyberark and have a lot of experience, I think, with this next area. And that is long-lived, non-rotated NHI secrets, the credentials that are powering all of this stuff. So let's talk first about this number, and then I'd love to hear your opinions and thoughts on this and why we're in this state. But we have been doing the State of Secret Sprawl report now for years. And we went back to 2022 data, said, hey, we found all these secrets, we fingerprinted them, we know where they are. Let's go retest the ones that were valid. And this is over 100,000 we over 10,000, I should say, over 10,000, we retested and say, all right, this is a good sample size. Are these still valid? And we were shocked that 70% that were valid in 2022 tested as valid today, meaning they worked. When we had a call with them, it returned something and said, hey, yes, I still work. That put my jaw on the floor. That was kind of a shocking thing. So we've been saying it for a while around here. We don't really have a secret leak problem. We have a secret rotation problem at the core of that. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. Look, I think, again, I'm going back to 2017, 2018, and it was all about hard-coded secrets, eliminating hard-coded secrets. And we kind of made a lot of progress as an industry about that, and we've moved away. And now the issue is rotation. So look, rotation is actually quite hard to change a secret, especially if it's in an active production system, which is, you know, where the most important ones are going to be, where you've got to basically change it at all the instances of that secret at the same time, so that you don't lose, you know, transactions. So rotation's kind of hard. In theory, you know, most companies, larger enterprises, they really want to. They have like a 90-day window around or compliance requirements around rotation. But it's hard to do that, and I think some of the newer projects that use secret managers can do the rotation, and it can be automatic based on policy. But otherwise, it can be a manual process. As a manual process, it's tough. And the challenge is if the secret's used by, let's say, 5 applications, and you get 4 of them changed and you don't change the 5th one, well, the problem is the 5th one may be that critical production application that goes down. And it's actually worse than that, because the problem is you don't know how many applications are using it necessarily. So you kind of, I think if I change all these, I'll be okay, but I don't know. So the tendency is you just leave it the way it is. And that's a problem.
That dovetails into another finding, because we started looking again with this year, or their methodology, into what permissions do these things actually grant. So they're long-lived. People are making long-lived because they're scared of knocking things down if they rotate it incorrectly or revoke it when they shouldn't have. But they're also granting it just huge access, way more than is needed for the most part. We were shocked to find that 96% of GitHub tokens we tested had write access. That's probably not something they need. Maybe they do. Don't know exactly what everybody's doing out there, but that seems excessive, right?
It does, yeah. No, so look, there is a move, and there's products and developments to basically move towards a least privileged kind of model, which is what we typically do for humans. And now we're looking at and sort of making advances there to do it with machine identities as well. But it's no, again, I think it's the classic, you know, the more you overprivilege something, and I think AI is going to make it even worse, because there will be a tendency to overprivilege, and then if you've got an overprivileged credential, then you can do an attacker can do a lot more with it and get a lot more leverage from it than an underprivileged or least privileged.
Gaetan could probably testify on when he finds an overprivilege in his pen test, then he's a happy guy, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm not the only one. I mean, here again, we can definitely say this is not just theory, and we observe all year long issues with, for example, GitHub tokens with higher privilege than needed. And like no later than in the past months or even past weeks, we had this TJ Action supply chain attack, which was due to a GitHub token with high privileges that led to a lot of security team having a bad Friday night. And like no later than 2 days ago, a CodeQL token with high privileges was also exploited to compromise a GitHub action. So yeah, that's a real problem, not just something that we are us saying. Like, it's happening in the real world.
So I think that's a really good point. I mean, these are real problems that really impact corporations and organizations, and I mean, it's a nightmare. These are very, very real. Yeah.
So we've been talking for about the last 40 minutes about, well, what we found in these major problems. Maybe this is a good time to start talking about how to fix it. And we wish there was a magic wand solution, and we love what you do at Cyberark. We love the secret management side of the world. But unfortunately, we're seeing people, even if they adopt secret management platforms like yours, we're still seeing evidence that they're still leaking secrets. It is one of the findings that, again, makes us scratch our head and like, well, how is this possible? If you've implemented a secret manager, isn't this the solution?
You're right. No, it's kind of amazing. You think, wow, you've got this, you're putting these secrets in a vault and the vault's leaking. Well, no, the vault actually isn't leaking, no matter which company it is that's running that vault. The issue is that, hey, I'm a developer, let me do a quick demo. I'll just pull that secret and I'll just hard code it into my demo script. I'll stick it on Git so I can share it with some friends, some colleagues, whatever. And then you've got a leaked secret. Or the other crazy thing is people, you get a hard-coded secret or a hard-coded cloud credential, you put it in the vault, but you don't rotate it. It's like, well, so I had this public secret, I put it somewhere safe, but I never changed it, so it's still public. And those things really happen.
Yeah, and that's why we recommend really having both the vault and the alarm system, because it's not because you have a vault that, as in a bank, you need an alarm system in place, because some people are taking the path of least resistance. They are hard coding, even if they're being told they should use a vault, they don't do it, or they make a mistake. And here you have the hard coded secrets happening again. So yeah, I think we are complementary for this. We are two sides of the solution. One side is vaulting, the other side is warning. So people, if they do the mistake, at least they fix it quickly and they rotate and make sure that the hard-coded secret is not anymore in the nature and active.
Now, there is a element here that I did want to bring up, and this comes from the Voice of the Practitioner joint report that we did with Cyberark, and that was this idea of vault sprawl, that people don't have one secret manager. If it was just one centralized secret manager that everyone consistently used, I don't think we'd be seeing this as much. But maybe you can explain that concept, Chris, to us, like that vault sprawl.
Yeah, sure. So vault sprawl means instead of putting all your secrets in a single vault, you basically have multiple vaults. And you say, well, why would I have multiple vaults? Well, if you've got multiple project teams, say working in a cloud environment, like for example, Azure actually recommends each project team has their own vault. I mean, that's great, except if you've got multiple vaults. So how does security look? You've got 10, 100, 1,000 vaults. These are kind of real numbers. I mean, how does security keep track of that? And then you may have the same secret across multiple vaults, which again, back to the rotation issue. It's like, well, if you've got the same secret shared, which you probably have in some instances, cloud access keys, whatever, then yeah, its rotation suddenly becomes really hard. So vault sprawl it's a problem. We got some great solutions for it, but it is a problem.
So we put that poll out there. If you haven't answered it yet, I see the number one answer right now on our poll is I have no idea. And I think that's the state of, you ask someone, one of the scariest things I found you could ask anyone working in security is like, so how many machine identities are you actually trying to secure? And watch their face go, what do you mean? But this other question also has been kind of fun to ask people in real life. Like, how many vaults do you think you have? And just people like, a lot.
Yeah. In some cases, it's funny because we work with some customers on this currently with all our machine identity initiative, and they're so different environments where sometimes they have one vault per environment per team. So imagine in a large organization, you said it, Chris, it goes hundreds, if not thousands.
Right. No, exactly.
Let's move on to some practical. How do we actually bridge this gap? Like, how do we go about fixing secret sprawl? Like I said earlier, and I kind of alluded to this, it's not that we have this problem of sprawl that we're trying to hit on its head just by itself as a lone symptom. Really, it points to a deeper issue of remediation, these long-lived credentials that are way overprivileged, that stick around forever, and it's only when those get sprawled, well, that seems to be the real issue. So that's why we're calling it bridging the remediation gap, because that's, if you can bridge the remediation gap, I think it solves this problem.
Yeah, I mean, ideally we'd say centralize like secrets management so you've got it in one place. That's not always possible because developers are going to have multiple vaults, but at least if you can centrally start to manage those vaults, even if you've got sprawling vaults, and track them. And then I think back to Carol's point, you want to do leak detection as well, because I mean, the more vaults you've got, the more likely there is for there to be a leak.
Yeah, if you do have a leak, you want to know about it immediately.
Exactly.
The second it happens, so you can jump on the remediation. Now, we're seeing remediation times weeks, months, years if we're looking at this public data. We actually had an interesting question out there we'll get to in a second from the questions there. But if we can treat the remediation as critical as finding it, because I think we have been in the industry overall getting better at messaging and the awareness of this is a real problem. You need to know about this. You need to jump on this, but we're still seeing this gap.
Yeah. I have something to say on that. Something we discussed with Gaëtan and some of the community in France. It seems that some companies are still a bit behind this idea of leaks, secret leaks, and the implication. And so someone told her that's one interesting point, that it's rarely in risk assessment. The fact that what will happen if you leak a secret? It's not the kind of thing people do in risk assessment, or not the kind of exercises people do. So that some are not prepared to actually be revoking and remediating secrets.
But what we see on that matter is first legislation and is taking notice of this, and a lot more legislations like DORA or NIS2 or even OWASP Top 10 outlining the fact that secrets, hard-coded secrets, should be considered as a major risk. And we see more often companies coming to us because they've had internal audits, risk audits, and that's what you were saying. We need to educate the market on the fact that risk audit should integrate that, and it should probably be put into the SOC 2 or the framework in the market, that basically secret hygiene should be part of the posture control, basically.
So let's go a little bit deeper on this. What do we do to remediate this? Because we've been talking about very high level strategic things, very enterprise cross team thing, but how do we fix this? Do we need to like radically change developer workflows?
Definitely not. That's not going to work. I mean, that's the one thing you don't want to do. Yeah.
So how do we better deliver those tools to help developers?
So maybe Dwayne, there are two things. I think one you will talk about it because you're pretty aware of that. I mean, this whole SPIF and Spire and all that movement of getting away from secrets, but that's something we think is going to come maybe in the next 10 years, but it's not going to be tomorrow, right? With the complexity of the organization. So one thing is train your developers. This is really important so that they know what secrets are giving access to, why it's important not to hard code. I mean, a lot of education is needed around this topic. The second thing is equip your development lifecycle with the proper tooling. So the secrets manager first, so that there is a way for protecting the secrets and dealing with them safely. And the second thing is the alarm system. So install secrets detection. You have secret detectors that can be implemented along the whole life cycle, so from shift left to shift right. And it's important if you shift left to the maximum, basically you are even bridging the gap of remediation, because remediation will not be needed because the secret will not even enter the code base. So that's going to help a lot. Also, when you implement a secret detection tool, you should be implementing something that scales, and that's something that helps you with remediation. We love to say that remediation, detection without remediation is just noise. You don't want to have like thousands of tickets of incidents and not being able to tackle them. what we think is important is that you are able to tackle them. And how do you tackle them? Basically by prioritizing them based on two, I would say, two axes. The first one is the severity. If it's an active key, giving access to production, to very sensitive data should be prioritized. And then complexity, because for a same set of keys with the same severity, you're going to tackle first the one that are simpler, the low-hanging fruit, where you can fix them quickly because, for example, they are deployed in one environment by one system. This is easy to rotate. And then, of course, the one that is leveraged by, I don't know, 5 or 10 applications that involve 5 or 10 teams will take you longer, and you can prioritize it differently. So this is critical when you assess the tool, that you have both these elements to make things different. And Dwayne, maybe you can talk about the trend that we see in the market of going away from secrets, but it's going to happen at some point, maybe, but yeah.
Rise of, well, you mentioned Spiffy and the implementation of Spire. That's something that we've been talking about in the industry for a while, of this idea of it's basically advanced PKI through APIs, key infrastructure. And there are ways to achieve that, but we're talking enterprise scale, and mostly it's homegrown systems like Kubernetes and other microservices you're developing that can use these internal namespacing authentication schemes. But there is a rise, and this is something Cyberark is helping with, move to, I don't like the term secretless, that's why it's in quotes here, but the secrets are very short-lived, they're automatically rotated, they are backed by some other scheme.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we've got some cool stuff coming out, well, at least from a demo standpoint, that we'll have actually at our customer conference Impact just in a couple of weeks where you'll be there. And yeah, so this is really around workload identity and using the combination of certificates and secrets and federated identity to be able to access securely, give secure access to workloads without necessarily using secrets. Again, I think secretless is like it's a great concept, but you need something in its place. And this, so yeah, and I think Spiffy does offer those capabilities.
So just noting the time here, and we did promise the audience here that we would move on to Q&A, but that's an excellent point. We can drop out. It's actually a good point, Daniel. There's no secret without a secret, Daniel says in chat.
Exactly, secret zero.
That's it's the kind of like what we did with serverless. Like there's still a server, you just don't need to like physically address it. That's the just-in-time ephemeral secrets issued just when you need them, that go away automatically and almost immediately. It's kind of the perfect worldview we're going toward.
But unfortunately, Dwayne, even if they last 1 second, it seems hackers are managing to break them. I read that this morning and I was, oh my God. Even in a second, they are able to leverage it. So yeah. So there was another question, I think.
There was, and that was referring back to our data from the long-lived secrets. So if you have other questions, please jump them out there in the chat or the questions. We will get to them the time we have left. But Jake asked, out of all those from 2022 that are now not active, so they're no longer valid, how many of those secrets do we think just expired? Could it be even less percentage of the actual secret rotation?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Jake. I don't know if we have the data. Maybe Alexi knows that, but for sure, in the one that we see that not being active anymore, it might be that they just expired and nobody did anything for rotating them. It's just that their lifespan just expired. So the probability of the rotation problem being big is even bigger with that, automated expiration after a certain time. So yeah.
So for 2022, I will not bet on pure expiration.
Okay.
I think there's also a part of account that just disappeared, that got deleted, because that's when we retest at from time to time. That's what we actually see. The secret is not valid anymore because the associated account was deleted.
Okay.
For more recent leaks, 2024, I will not be that sure, but for older ones, that's a trend that we see.
Okay, interesting.
It's one of those things we hope that more of them will become invalid because people do put expirations on them because
Yeah.
they are. But this speaks to a larger problem of non-human identity lifecycle management. Definitely a larger topic than we have to get into in the last 3 minutes today. But if you're not coming in, or if you're not creating secrets and the NHIs that those secrets go to with a direct decommissioning or offboarding plan, the same way you would with a human. Like humans come into your organization, they get a bunch of access and a bunch of rights and a bunch of privileges. But then at some point they go away and you need to offboard them. And we need to have that same level of planning, lifecycle management for all of these secrets. And that's something, if they're hard coded, that's going to be literally impossible for you. And that's what the secret sprawl remediation is really all about, is let's get our ducks in a row. Let's put the secrets where they need to be put, find them out in the world, wherever they are, put them in the right place along the way. And that's something we're very proud to do with our NHI product here with Cyberark. Put them in the right place. And then once they're in the right place and we're sure that we're not leaking them anymore, how do we change that authentication scheme to be something ephemeral, to be something that isn't going to be long-lived, something that does expire in a very, very short window, or just in time, or just that one use.
And Dwayne, if I was not a CMO, I would not be a good CMO if I didn't do that. But next month, we'll talk more about non-human identity governance. Big announcement happening next month. So we'll invite everyone to basically discuss that very problem of the life cycle, the over permission, the stale secret, all these elements of, okay, I've done my job correctly. I vaulted my secret. I didn't hard-code it, but still, is the hygiene correct? So, and well, thank you, Lucia, to use the code extension. This is another shift left, as I mentioned, another shift left tooling that can help you really not hard code secrets. You can find the GitGuardian VS extension very easily to implement and helps you every day.
We'll drop a link out there to that. Actually, I'll draw a link to that blog post right there in the chat. But unfortunately, we're right coming up on time, and I just want to say a quick thank you. Give anybody a chance to say a final word, especially you, Chris, since you're our guest here. Everyone else here is GitGuardian. But thank you again for everybody that's been on the call. But if anybody has any last thoughts, any parting words for us, this would be your invitation.
No, I just want to say thanks for inviting me. It's been a great conversation. I think the reports you do and the work you do is it's really important for the industry. And I think, like the secret leak detection, that's really, really important. So thank you.
Yeah, I wanted to tell everyone that we took, I think, a lot of pleasure doing the report, finding the data. This was a very collaborative work, even more this year, with more authors involved, discovering all these data, sometimes being very surprised by the data that we discovered. So if you liked it, just share it also. I think this report is a good way to, as we were talking about training, this is a good way to train people. So if you want to share it with your peers, it's explaining the problem in a very simple way. And I think I had some comments from other people that it's easy to read and understand, even if you're not, a deeply technical person. And if you want to use it as also education in your organizations, please do. We can also help on education if you want. Dwayne, you do sometimes lunch and learn for organizations. So feel free to reach out to us for this. Oh, we lost your sound, Dwayne.
Still there?
Yeah, here, I can hear you now, yeah.
Yeah, if you have any, if you'd like to see our platform in action, we're happy to work with you that way. If you just want to reach out to us at contact@GitGuardian, we're also happy to work with you that way. Lucia, that's the answer right there. Reach out to contact or sales, and we will be happy to work with you. But that is it. We are out of time. Thank you, everyone, for being on the call today, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.